wrong. Oi, 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 oi. Just give me a minute to breathe. It's and I can see better. It's not to underestimate this, but tonight's live is a very, very, very important live. There's only going to be one subject. There's going to be other bits and pieces, but there's only one subject: digital IDs, or the digital ID. I don't know whether you're aware, but there was a mass debate in Westminster Hall, the Great Hall at the Palace of Westminster today, around the let me just sorry for the last 2 hours I've had my head crunching bits and pieces. So basically, there was a petition to ban digital IDs, and nearly 3 million people signed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a digital ID 101 tonight. I'm going to give you what happened this afternoon at the debate at 4:30. I'm going to, thank you, Reg D, and Tippy Tappy Feet. So basically, I'm going to give you a deep dive, because I've said this many times on these lives. I don't believe that we're going to get a mandatory digital ID. I think the reportage and the narrative is to scare you, fear porn. And as I said last night, they want you to feel certain ways. That's why the mainstream media, and yes, I know I normally do parish notes at this point, but this is really, really important. So I think that they're not going to, they can't, is a better phrase. They can't make a digital ID mandatory. I'm going to explain why tonight, the European Convention for Human Rights. I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to basically have the knowledge, have the context, and have the understanding around what is going on and what they can and can't do. I'm going to give you the deep dive, almost the legalese of the European Convention of Human Rights and what they can and can't do and why. And then I'm going to give you a really simple explanation for your takeaway, so that you can go to your family and or your community and discuss it with them, knowing that you are fully armed with all of the knowledge that you need, and all of it is going to be encapsulated in this live tonight. I've basically I had one live prepared for tonight, and then when I remembered this debate was going on, I kind of pivoted away, and I've done a whole load of work over the last few hours really quickly, which so my head's a bit full of stuff, and I just need a minute or two to kind of decompress, get myself into place for the live, so that I can relay the information that I want you to have tonight, so that you Dale Steele, yeah, wrong. So so I'm just going to do the parish notes. We've got 50 people watching now, which is good for early doors. I'm just going to decompress for 30 seconds while I just set everything up. Oi. I was going to talk about Farage. I was going to talk about other stuff, and I may add that at the end. But I think, and what I want to do with this tonight is I don't want to make it really heavy, but I want you to be armed, and that's in the metaphorical sense. Knowledge is power. So if you've got the knowledge, you understand the bullshit that's going to come out of their mouths. The politicians were kicking off this afternoon on all sides of the house. There's a real groundswell within Parliament that don't want this, because they know that whomever is in Parliament now, and if you and I are forced to take this, and I don't believe we will. Let me forgive me. Let me just make a note. Right, that's that. There was, let me just get this in my head. Yes. Sniffy's been in town. And I'm going to give you that. Sorry, I know that I'm talking at a million miles an hour, and I'm talking randomly because, look, as I said last night on the live, this is going to affect our children, our grandchildren, our grandchildren's grandchildren. This is going to affect everyone, me and you, for the next 100 years. That's why this is so important. But we'll talk about Sniffy at number 10. Let's get some parish notes very quickly. Paulie Galtieri, welcome to the body of the Kirk, sir. Hope you're well. And you, Des Ashton and the Mrs. Ashton. Les Griffiths says, there is growing chatter that Angela Rayner will be the next Prime Minister. Seriously, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. If that wanker on the throne had any spine, he would dissolve Parliament. Good man, Les. Tell it like it is. But I've been telling you for months, Ginger Growler. I noticed Katie Hopkins is using that term. Unusual, that, Katie, because I started using it 18 months ago. Can't you find anything of your own? And by the way, says David Graham, I see schools in London are renaming Christmas Jumper Day to Winter Jumper Day to be more inclusive. What a load of twaddle nonsense. I agree, David. So if I need to just bring myself back into the room. I need to be here. You know, sometimes when you have a long journey to do, and you're on the motorway, and then you get to your destination for like 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, you're still on the motorway. You're still in that headspace. You're still on the motorway. Well, I'm still in me research, deep dive, trying to bring you information space. So I'm allowing time and space for everyone to get their feet into the starmers. That's the pews. And why do we call them the starmers? Because they're hard on your arse. There are piles cushions that Sister Mary has told me. She's given them a bit of Febreze because they were getting a bit whiffy. She's done a bit of Febrezing, and they seem to be fragrant again. And don't forget your Battenberg. There is some free at the front near the pulpit of truth, and the altar wine is free, although it's not necessarily going to bankrupt the body of the Kirk. But those thieving bar stewards in power have upped the cost of the altar wine. How very dare they? Don't they know it's in respect of the blood of the Father or the Son and the Holy Ghost and stuff? It's the blood, mate. The blood. Tom Harney's evening all, as a wronging philosopher once said, if that gets any bigger, I'm going to have to report you to the authorities. And as Adam said to Eve when they were, first in the Garden of Eden, oh, stand back, Eve, I don't know how big this thing gets. Reg D, welcome to the body of the Kirk, Reg. And Sandra, oh, I'm looking forward to the weekend, Sandra, another win for the Blades. I'm not joking, honestly. I told you that you were 6 on the bounce, was it 6 or 7 defeats? And now you're just ploughing on, you're mullering the whole of the championship. And look, Coventry and the Borough at the top, I think they're kind of shoo-ins for the Premiership next season. But you're not far away from the playoffs. And after the start of your season, Sandra, I would love to see you in playoffs. So welcome to the body of the Kirk. FA Cup, you got Everton away. Oh, dear Lord. And we got Mansfield at home. Did we see our second goal on Saturday? It was a cracker. No, I'll check it out, Sandra. No, it's been a bit mad and busy and stuff over the last few days. But how did you manage to get Mansfield at home? Jammy. Everton away. Oh, I'd rather... we've kind of just lost interest in the League Cup. We're out of that. FA Cup, I'd rather just, get knocked out by Everton. Let them have a run. Bless them. I'd rather concentrate on being staying in the Premiership this year. But big match Sunday, 14th. Anyway, evening, Sandra. Welcome to the body of the Kirk, as always. Paulie Galtieri says, young Dougie is gutted. Another Christmas off YouTube. Oh, can you imagine? I'm sure he'll have to get somebody to give out his P.O. Box number for his Christmas cards and his charitable donations. Viv Kenyon in the body of the Kirk. Howdy, our ranting Rev is here, ready for the Goss. Hang on a second, that's the wrong one. Bloody hell, Adrian. You need to be pressing a different button. Viv Kenyon, Viv Indalo, welcome to the body of the Kirk. I see you. Paulie, Katie Hopkins was giving out his, do you know, great minds think alike. It must be psychic. Great minds think alike. Giving out his PO box address on her Friday show. She asked people to send him a nice Christmas card or something. There have been other people saying, "Oh, send him money, send him money." Don't. The fraud case is still open. What's Les said? Les has definitely said something because I see you said, Les, was it a bloke with a pepper spray? Yeah, that was at Heathrow, wasn't it? Terminal 3. Child 3-year-old was also involved in it. From what I understand, somebody was using pepper spray trying to nick a case off a woman. I mean, let's just have a think about this for a minute. So you want to nick a case off a woman and you're a bloke. Why would you want to nick a holiday case off a woman knowing that it's going to be full of her clothes? I mean, we're not crediting him with much intellect, are we? I'm getting confused. Les Griffiths, I have zero time for Katie and even less for Doddy's dad. So, welcome to the body of the Kirk, well, I'll kind of curtail the parish notes this evening, but to everyone in the chat, welcome. We're getting everyone with their feet under the table, in the pews, in the stammers, and as I said at the beginning, this is the Theatre of the Mind live 269 already so soon. My life, oy vey. And the title was Digital ID: The Answer. That's what we're going to do tonight. So this is going to be very, very, very interactive. Because I want your opinion, because your opinion matters, and your knowledge matters, your context matters, and your understanding of it all matters. So what I will do tonight is we'll wait another couple of minutes. As I say, Sniffy's at number 10. We'll see how long the digital ID information takes. But before we talk about the news tonight, I want to ask you something very small. You have 3 hypes per week. And if you like any of the videos that I make, if you just, I don't know how to do it. If you push the hype button, it gives me points, and the more points my videos get, then what do points make? Prizes! So the more hype my videos get, the more it's pushed out to other eyeballs. So if you can, you get 3. You can like and sub and do all the other stuff. But if you feel that any of the videos that I make are good enough, then please press the hype button. So I'm going to ask you something really small, possibly innocuous, something that kind of looks harmless. How many times today have you unlocked a screen, scanned your face, to get into banks and stuff? Have you tapped a card to buy something and prove who you are to a machine? You didn't notice, did you? You didn't. Because the most powerful systems never feel like force. They're not twisting your arm up your back. They get you to make the choice. Because all of those things, unlocking a screen, scanning a face, tapping a card, prove who you are to a machine, they all feel like convenience. Because we were doing thumbs and fingers, so they've got all of our fingerprints, and now they're scanning our face to get into stuff. So they know what we can and can't do, and we're just thinking, oh, that's modern technology. Blimey, we can get into that. Look, scan me face. Oh, brilliant! I can get in my bank account on the app. Brilliant. So later tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about a magic card. A card that makes life easier. And it also quietly changes what freedom even means. Just park that thought for the moment. I'm going to talk about Liz Truss later. Jesus, loose cannon. She's on the loose. She's now on YouTube, bless her. And well, we'll talk about her later. I'm going to ask you a question before I get into digital ID. Whatever happened to Trump suing the BBC? Have you noticed how quickly the news cycle is changing? So I'm sure he still is. We can talk about BBC Question Time, an illegal migrant with an earpiece in. How does that work, BBC? So, welcome. Welcome to the Theatre of the Mind Live 269. Earlier today, I was thinking there has to be an answer to digital ID. There has to be an answer. Us saying no, us signing a petition. The petition isn't binding, but we get a bit of a mass debate in Westminster Hall. That's the big hall in the palace. I've been there a few times. It's massive. And then I thought, hang on a second. Can you remember all of the arguments? Farage, Badenoch, the Tories and Labour arguing about whether they're going to get rid of the European Convention for Human Rights. And I'm always suspicious when politicians turn around and say, oh, we're going to get rid of it. Yeah, we're going to get rid of it. Now, I was on the radio. I was doing late night phone-ins around the time, at the back end of the 90s, when the European Convention for Human Rights became law in this country, when the European Working Time Directive became law in this country, all around 98, because you had to give Blair the devil time to get in and get his feet in number 10 and allow Sherry to have some other woman go into the shower on a morning and give her a scrub, if that's not a euphemism. I don't know what is. So since 1998, it's like now almost 20 years, we've had these European conventions, human rights and the Working Time Directive. But hang on a second, I thought, digital ID, does it contravene the European Convention for Human Rights? Surely it's contravening privacy. Because then these bloody migrants, economic migrants, the digital ID, you know that the beginning, this government, this bunch of inepts, they've turned round and said, well, yes, what we're going to do, it's going to be convenience. And what we're going to do is we're going to issue digital ID to everybody so that the migrants can't get work. And if anybody wants to work in this country, anybody, there's no grey or black economy, anybody wants to work in this country, they've got to prove who they are. But digital ID will identify them as migrants, which contravenes the European Convention for Human Rights. But the digital ID is going to apply to all citizens, which means me and you get it in the neck. The migrants, because it contravenes their European Convention for Human Rights, will get away scot-free. So the convenience of identifying anybody coming into this country so they can work actually doesn't apply. It only applies to me and you. Me and you. You and me. Not fucking migrants. And then I thought, but one's going to contravene the other. But the European Convention for Human Rights is one of, or one form, or the greatest form of defence. Hang on. Keir Starmer. He's a human rights lawyer. Sherry Blair, the one that likes to take showers with women. Carol Kaplan. That was her name. Fact, before you start. She's a human rights lawyer. So surely they've ran it by some human rights lawyers as to whether it is legal and doesn't contravene the law of this land, the European Convention for Human Rights. The Human Rights Act is in this country law. But it's going to apply to all citizens, not just the economic migrants. So that's where my thought process started today. It started with a, oops. Sir Keir Starmer, dropping a spherical. I would have called it a bollock, but I'm trying to moderate my language. So I'm going to basically, I'm going to walk you through this, and I've got 6 questions that I'm going to ask you. I might ask others because I just want to get your take. And I know that I have one of the most intelligent audiences on YouTube. So tonight, digital ID, the answer. And first the deep dive, then what's happened at Westminster Hall today, because there's a bit of action being going on. Then I'm going to give you the simple explanation so you can take it away having fully understood everything that I've said tonight. Then your answers to my questions. So now that I've kind of piqued your interest with a Q, the key European Convention for Human Rights that digital ID kind of bangs into, we do love a bang, it's Article 8, a right to respect for private life. It is a core tenet of the European Convention for Human Rights that digital ID is going to come up against. Not today, not tomorrow, but at some point in this Parliament. And I am going to explain what the Labour Party have said they're going to do with digital ID. Not that it's in their manifesto, of course. But this Article 8 is really, really important. It's the right to respect for private life. Article 8 of the European Convention for Human Rights, it was brought into UK law via the Human Rights Act, as I've just said. It protects private life, your private life, my private life, everyone's private life. Not only does it protect your private life, it protects your home and correspondence. Courts have long treated personal data, biometrics, communications, location data as part of private life. So the courts have got this down. They understand that private life means your personal data, your biometrics, that's critical. Communications, location data, all comes under private life, according to the Equity and Human Rights Commission. Now, the digital ID scheme and/or schemes, because these are worldwide, I'm just not sure, other than Europe, whether around the world, whether Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or even North America, have similar laws on their statute books. But a digital ID scheme typically involves biometric data, that's your physog, and your fingerprints. A persistent unique identifier. What did I tell you? 2 years ago, 2020, when did we start? 22. I told you in 2022 that Tony Blair, the devil himself, had told the world via my sources, and my sources are impeccable. He said everyone was going to have a unique digital identifier. Shag me stupid. It's called a digital ID. And it's, his son that's going to be running the business. And links into many state and private databases, whether that's the NHS, whether that's your passport and or driving license, or any logs of where and when you use your identification. Now, all of it is squarely inside Article 8 territory. So I'm going to give you the law. The European Court of Human Rights has already said S. and Marper versus the UK in 2008. This is law. on the statute books, and there are examples, precedents in law. Indefinite retention of DNA and fingerprints of people never convicted breached Article 8 because it was blanket and indiscriminate and lacked proper safeguards. If you want another example in law, Big Brother Watch versus the United Kingdom in 2021. The UK's bulk interception regime violated Article 8 and 10 because it lacked sufficient safeguards and oversight. Now, those two cases that I've just cited don't ban databases or interception outright. What they do is set the rule, which the government and these human rights lawyers have all got to adhere to. And this is the output. Any large-scale data or surveillance system must be clearly grounded in law, necessary, proportionate, and surrounded by robust safeguards and oversight. A digital ID system would be judged in the same way. I'll give it to you again. It's about appropriateness and proportionality. So any large-scale data and surveillance system, which is what they want, facial recognition, must be clearly grounded in law. I've just given you two legal examples where they wanted to keep DNA on file for decades and decades and decades, and the law said, no, that's not proportionate. And it must be surrounded, digital ID, by robust safeguards and oversight. Not just bloody convenient for this bunch of inept at Ozempic Palace. Now, there's another article of the European Convention for Human Rights, Article 14, non-discrimination. So Article 14 says, and I quote, "You must enjoy convention rights without discrimination." That's sex, race, disability, and others, in relation to the other rights like Article 8. So Article 14, non-discrimination, does apply. And how would that apply? Digital ID could cause trouble if people without smartphones, look, if it means I've got to have a digital ID, I'm going to get rid of my smartphone. I'll just work on my computer. So digital ID could cause trouble here if people without smartphones or tech access are effectively excluded from essential services. And there are still some old boys and girls that they're not tech savvy, they've not got tech access, they don't have the money. And if they didn't have that, the smartphones or tech access, they effectively would be excluded from essential services, which means they would be discriminated against in society. And that takes us to certain groups: migrants, the poor, pensioners, me, those with disabilities, religious minorities. They would be disproportionately blocked, surveyed, or flagged. And the system would build in biased risk and would have on that list scores or watch lists, or you'd get points. What do points make? They don't make bloody prizes if you're going to get a digital ID. So digital ID becomes a gatekeeper for everyday life. We know that already. Benefits if you're on benefits, pensions if you're on pensions, healthcare, the NHS app, banking, you've got to have your face scanned, travel, voting, all kinds of bits and pieces. And what they will do over time is they will bring all of those together, that amorphous mass, into just one digital ID. And some groups are systematically disadvantaged. So you would have Article 14 and Article 8 as a real litigation risk. And the government couldn't take that on because it's the European Convention of Human Rights. And there's Starmer, the inept, saying, oh, yeah, we're going to have very closer relationships with Europe. They're not the only articles of the European Convention for Human Rights or the Human Rights Act in this country. Just remember this, the politicians want rid of it. Why do they want rid of it? Because it doesn't matter whether it's Labour or the Tories or Reform, it's still the government. And the government want to do what the government's always done. They're all the same. They're not different. They just offer you the choice, and you perceive it as, oh, well, I'll vote Labour out and I'll vote the Tories in. Oh, no, 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 no. I'll vote the Tories out and I'll vote Labour in. The system stays the same. But there's more articles. I promise you, it's a technical term that we use in the Northeast. The government's in a panshite. Article 10 and 11, expression and association. So from the Big Brother Watch case that I quoted just a couple of minutes ago, the court accepted that surveillance systems can chill journalism and political activity. It will have a bearing. And if it affects journalism, that would engage Articles 10 and 11, as well as 8, as well as 14. So there's 4 articles of the European Convention for Human Rights that is going to kick in if they try to give us a mandatory digital ID. So a digital ID that logs who attends protests, union meetings, political rallies, ties online pseudonyms to verified real-world ID. So that would be the European Convention for Human Rights actually protects you from calling yourself, I don't know, nom de guerre or nom de plume, Adrian Allen or something, and that's not my real name. It is my real name, but I'm just for the purposes of this exercise. Imagine it's not. And I went on as Adrian Allen, and I was just saying stuff and doing stuff and meeting people under that nom de guerre and nom de plume other name. If somebody then took that pseudonym and verified it against a real world ID, that contravenes the European Convention for Human Rights. And if a digital ID is used to deny access to platforms or events based on views, there was Nigel Farage. He was denied banking by the banks, and they wouldn't give him a reason why he was denied banking. They just said, oh, political allegiance. That's a contravention of the European Union, the European Convention for Human Rights, according to my research, and I don't think it's far away. Now, a digital ID that does that could be attacked as indirectly suppressing free expression and a freedom of association. And then, look, Fat Lad Lammy. Do you know he's he's dropped another spherical? You know, Lammy said 60%. What did he say? 60% of rapes weren't reported or didn't get to court because of the time delay. It's not 60%, it's 8%. He got the figures wrong. That man is so inept. And look at him with his wig on. So he'll be very well aware, just as that was a little aside, he'll be very well aware that Article 6 and 13, fair trial and effective remedy. So it's in the European Convention for Human Rights that we should be allowed fair trial. So how's he going to have them fast-tracked then? He can't. Because it's against the European Convention for Human Rights. How many times do I have to say this? So if decisions about you, your welfare, immigration status, sanctions, blacklisting are made via a digital ID system or automated checks, then Article 6, fair trial, kicks in, and Article 13, effective remedy, start to matter. So, can you see and challenge the data used against you? Can you correct mistakes? Is there independent oversight? Now, the Council of Europe's own work on digital identity warns exactly about these risks: discrimination, unwarranted surveillance, and loss of control over one's own identity if there are no proper remedies or oversight. So this bunch of inepts at Ozempic Palace, if they start with a mandatory digital ID and anything starts to go against you, they're just going to throw the bloody book at them. That's from the Council of Europe. So the first question I'm sure you're going to ask me is, does this mean digital ID can't be brought into this country? Legally, no, that's too strong. The European Convention for Human Rights and the Human Rights Act don't create an absolute no digital ID. Instead, they set conditions, subtleties that lawyers and barristers can argue against because they can make money. Money. It's all about the Benjamins. Don't trust anybody that's involved in the legal fraternity. Don't trust anybody that does anything for legal and thereby payment at the end of it. I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. So under Article 8, Paragraph 2, the state can interfere with privacy if the interference is, and I'm giving you examples, in accordance with the law. Well, the European Convention for Human Rights, the Human Rights Act, is law in this country. Clear, accessible, predictable legislation. In accordance with the law. So they can do whatever they want if it's in accordance with the law. And if it's not in accordance with the law, all they'll do is they'll just change the law. So it is in accordance with the law. Cheeky bastards. The state can interfere if pursuing a legitimate aim, as in preventing fraud, securing services, and the state can interfere if it's necessary in a democratic society. There is a pressing social need. That's what they'll use. Pressing social need for, well, if we want to go and demonstrate, if we're not happy that digital ID is being brought in and is mandatory and we take to the streets, well, it's necessary in a democratic society. There is a pressing social need and the response is proportionate. You know that the Met have just announced today that they've bought these I would term them riot wagons, £3 million a piece, and they've bought 18 of them. Where'd they get the money from? Telling us they can't put enough cops on the streets because they've got no budget, and yet they can buy proper riot wagons, £3 million each. I know this for a fact. If you want to stress test anything, just give it to cops. They'll soon find how weak it is. £3 million each. At least Dick Turpin wore a mask. And the state can interfere if surrounded by effective safeguards and oversight, of course. I mentioned that. There's limited retention, meaning they can't keep the DNA on file for decades and decades and decades. So there's limited retention. Strict access controls, so nobody can just go into a computer and go, boom, oh, there's Adrian Allen. Independent regulators. Oh, we know about independent regulators. They're not worth the bloody paper they're written on. And there is an ability to challenge whatever the state is interfering with. Mostly kids. So in S and MARPA, the court didn't say, you can't hold DNA. It said, your scheme is blanket and indefinite with weak safeguards. That fails Article 8. So it's in the subtlety, it's in the nuances. In Big Brother Watch, it didn't ban bulk interception per se, but it killed the UK regime because of insufficient oversight, weak safeguards, and a lack of targeted controls. So, for digital ID, the realistic legal position is this. Parliament can legislate for some kind of digital ID. Don't worry. Solutions coming further down the line. I'm going to give you that tonight, I told you. But if it's mandatory for most aspects of life, no, they can't. If it's highly centralized, 1 mega database, no, they can't. If it's used for broad surveillance or social control, look, and how do we end shite? No, they can't. This is the legal position. This is not me just kind of kicking off about it. This is the legal position. And if it lacks real safeguards, opt-outs and remedies, they can't. So as it stands, mandatory for most aspects of life, that's never going to be allowed. Highly centralized, because it'll be hacked by the Russians, seemingly, according to the newspapers. No, that won't be allowed either. If it's used for broad surveillance or social control, or people that go on a demonstration because they don't want digital ID, no, can't be done for that either. Or it lacks real safeguards, opt-outs and remedies, No, it can't be used either. So it is very likely that it's going to be challenged in Strasbourg and could be found incompatible with Article 8 and Article 10 and Article 6 and Article 14 and Article 13. But that doesn't automatically stop it being brought in. But it can force major redesigns, payouts, or political retreat. A bit like what happened to the old United Kingdom DNA retention regime and bulk surveillance laws. So we still have a chance here. So where the battle lines really are, for your information, your narrative, and for you to be able to tell other people that you have the facts to hand, if you're so I'm framing this for your information, your context, your understanding. But the sharp distinction is this. It is not. Digital ID is illegal under the European Convention for Human Rights, so they can't do it. That would have been just lazy journalism. That would have been easy. But what I can say is that the European Convention for Human Rights is one of the few remaining brakes on how far they can push digital ID. So the battleground issues that a court will look at: centralization versus decentralization. Let me explain. One big state-controlled database of everything about you is much harder to justify under Article 8 than a decentralized, local-only privacy-by-design model. Council of Europe and academic analysis highlight exactly that risk. I'm not going to go into another huge paper that I read a little earlier, because you don't need to know that. Secondly, voluntary versus de facto mandatory. So voluntary apps, NHS, that quietly become required for, say, travel, benefits, healthcare, work checks, can easily be attacked as coercive in practice, raising Article 8, Article 14 issues and digital exclusion concerns. I'll give you a personal example. So I've had an email today from my doctor's surgery. But a month ago, my doctor's surgery sent me a message via the NHS app. So I went into it, and the NHS app says, we want to use your data for third-party companies. We want to pass on your data to third-party companies. I deleted the fucking app off my phone. So now they've sent me an email today. I didn't give them a permission to send me emails, so I've just deleted them. But I am going to call them in the morning and say, oi, what the you up to? I don't have the NHS app, don't need the app. If you want to say anything, pick the dog and bone up, give us a call. But then again, get lazy. You're not going to do that, are you? So privacy groups in this country are already warning that EU and UK digital ID moves risk exactly this voluntary in name only trap, because coercive and trap are very much the words that need to be used. There's also mission creep, or scope creep if you want, function creep, whatever kind of creep you want to name it, that will be exactly what it is. So if a wallet starts as just for passports, driving licenses, and your Tesco club card, it ends up being used for policing, protest tracking, credit scoring, social security decisions. That's where that ruling, Essen Marper and the Big Brother watch style arguments get strongest. So far, I'm giving you the real strong reasoning and arguments against the government doing what they intend to do, because they're not backing down. But don't worry. Once you get through all of this, you're going to be so well armed, you can basically say to Starmer and the inept elite, Foxtrot Oscar. There are safeguards and oversight and remedies, because it's all part of the European Convention for Human Rights. So is there an independent regulator with teeth? Don't be fucking stupid. Tony Blair's son is going to be running it all, seemingly. So how can there be an independent regulator? Who else is getting jollies and freebies? And somebody's earning money. Are there clear rules on what data is kept, for how long and by whom? That's where the Big Brother watch, they won at court, because you can't keep data and or DNA for however long you determine, because 3 questions. What data is being kept, for how long and by whom? And do we have real rights to access, to be able to rectify any mistakes? And most importantly, delete any data. So there may be clear bans on use for mass surveillance and profiling. So I'm going to ask you first question. Let me just bring some stuff up on my screen before I continue on with arming you. Metaphorically, of course. Forewarned is forearmed. Oh, no, hang on a second. Right, the first question of tonight. As I say, there's going to be about half a dozen of them. I just want to find out how you feel about all this. Do you believe a government should ever have the power to track a person's daily movements? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know, I'm unsure. Do you believe a government should ever have the power to track a person's daily movements? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. Albert Medcalf and Paul West and Tom Harneys, Robert Norman, Nathan Diamond, Matthew Whedon, Reg D. Virtually everyone apart from Rich, of course. David Graham says no. No way, Jose. Who's Jose? I'm joking. Simon Simons, Carl Warby, Soul Rebel, BD Cool, I See You, Rich, Terrorists. Good point, Rich. William Commons, Sandra Whittam, Comic Mania, yes for terror suspects. Okay, get it. Got it. Des Ashton, too, but they already do. Hell no, says Karina. Everybody, Don Wiggly, fuck no. Everybody's saying no. So, hang on, even we've had Jose, now we've got Pedro, according to Oval Raw. No way, Pedro. We've still got more questions, but I'll hold them for the moment. I need to give you more information. The Council of Europe itself has issued guidelines for national digital identity, emphasising human rights and privacy by design, and warning that poor design can violate rights and cause discrimination, marginalisation, and unwarranted surveillance. That is from the Council of Europe. So, digital ID is not automatically unlawful, but it is inherently dangerous territory under the European Convention for Human Rights if built badly. And I will remind you, keep those open and listen for all the politicians that only but months ago they were talking about getting rid of the European Convention for Human Rights. All of them. Labour backbenchers, some of the frontbenchers, some of the Tory party, some of Reform. Just remember, if they start talking about getting rid of the European Convention for Human Rights, it's because they want digital ID bringing in. And it's the only way to get it in, almost. So, let me say this to you. The European Convention doesn't magically ban digital ID, but it does say this. The state does not own your life or, as importantly, your data. Any digital ID scheme becomes a human rights minefield the moment it turns into a tracking device rather than a tool you control. So, if you're sitting comfortably and you're fully engaged, I want you to imagine this. You're given a special magic card. Freebie. Government issues it. Freebie. And this card has your name, your face, your fingerprints. It knows where you live, what you buy, where you go, who you talk to, what doctor you see, what money you get, and what rules you break. And they say, oh, don't worry, it's just to make life easier. That card is digital ID. Now, after everything that I've told you, here's the big question. Does that card break your human rights? The short answer is this. Digital ID is not automatically illegal, but it becomes dangerous the second it starts watching you instead of serving you. And that's where the European Convention on Human Rights comes in. So, in simplistic terms, and rather than kind of bamboozle you with information overload, I want to keep this really simple. So the first big right, as in your rights, the first big right is the right to a private life. So let me explain this really simply. The convention says you have a right to privacy. That means the government doesn't own your body. It doesn't own your face. It doesn't own your fingerprints. It doesn't own your personal life. Your life is yours. That's the right to a private life. But here's the problem. A digital ID needs your face, your fingerprints, your phone, your location, your activity. And once all of that is linked together, something very strange happens. You stop being a person. You start becoming a profile, a moving file, a walking barcode, a living receipt. And the European Court has already said something very, very, very clear in the past. You cannot store everyone's personal data forever just in case. They ruled against the United Kingdom for keeping DNA and fingerprints of innocent people. They ruled against mass surveillance. Why? Because it was blanket, indiscriminate, and too powerful. And that's exactly the danger within digital ID. Not that it exists, but that it never forgets. Let's have another question. That one. So, 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. The question is this. Do you trust that digital ID systems would never be used for social control in the future? Do you trust that digital ID systems would never be used for social control in the future? 1, you trust. 2, do I feck? 3, I'm not too sure. Let's have a look at the votes. Reg D, Louise Hampson. Oh, that's press the wrong button. A Tippy Tappy Feet. Catwoman Jones, Elliot, Robert Norman, Carl Pellerin, Amalia. 2. Of course not, says Amalia. Comic Mania. 2. Mike. Everybody's saying 2, 2, 2, 2. So, do you know, I love you. I love the fact that you're a cynical old tart like me. Great minds think alike. Fools seldom differ. But the fact that you're looking this government square in the face going, you're going to have a weird shade. We've seen right through you, you fecker. So the second big right that you have, one of your rights, no discrimination. This is a simplified explanation. I've given you kind of the legalese at the beginning, and I'm glad that you've stayed with me because it gets simpler as we go and unpeel the layers of the onion. The second big right is no discrimination. So the convention also says you must not be treated unfairly because of who you are. But what happens if you don't own a smartphone? Your phone battery dies. I mean, how many times has that happened to you? Oh, I'm running out of battery. Anybody got a charger? Anybody got a charger? And your face scanner doesn't like your face. Oh, constant story for me every bloody day. Oh, can't get in. What happens if you're old, or you're poor, or you're disabled, or you don't trust tech, or you make one mistake in the system? Oh, your name's not down, you're not coming in. And then suddenly, no scan, no access. No access, no life. That's not convenience, that's digital exclusion. And exclusion is discrimination by another name. I'm going to give you the third big right that you have: speech and protest. And this is important because, Starmer sat in the White House saying, I'm very proud of the free speech in my country. And everybody in this country went, whoa, hang on, what the bloody hell? Mr. Flip-Flop, what's he talking about? He's talking out of his backside. Somebody break wind? Oh, it was just Starmer speaking. So the third big right that you have, speech and protest, means you also have the right to, let me take a mouthful. Oh, you're allowed to drink hibiscus. You also have the right to speak freely, gather freely, and protest freely, apart from when the Met are kettling you in. But now imagine this. Every protest you attend is logged. Every meeting is time-stamped. And every movement is recorded. Nobody has to arrest you. They just watch you until you learn to behave. And the European Court has already warned this government, surveillance changes how people think, speak and behave. And remember, the European Convention for Human Rights, your third big right is speak freely, gather freely and protest freely. And the court has said surveillance changes how people think, speak and behave. So the Rosas, the thin blue line, they're getting more facial recognition around the country. So who thought that was a great idea, considering we've got the European Convention for Human Rights? Surveillance changes how people think, speak and behave. That's not freedom. That's obedience training. That's what you do to a fucking dog. Back to ginger growler again. So the big lie that they tell you, and they will always say, it's voluntary. But if your digital ID is required for your bank, your benefits, your job, your doctor, your travel, your bills, then it's not voluntary. That's like saying you don't have to breathe, but if you stop, you can't enter society. That's not choice. That's merely coercion with a smile. So the big question is this: does the convention ban digital ID? Here's the truth spoken plainly. The convention does not say you can never have digital ID. What it does say is, if you do this, you must obey strict rules. And that's for the government, not for me and you. Because although the rules don't apply to us, they kind of do, but we're covered by the European Convention for Human Rights, and that's why they want to get rid of it. Not because, it's the bloody Tories, it's the bloody Labour, they won't let us do anything. It's not. They want rid of it so they can impose stuff on you that the European Convention for Human Rights covers. So as I've said to you, the convention does not say you can never have digital ID. What it does say is, if you do this, you must obey strict rules. And those rules are, it must be limited, it must be proportionate, it must be safe, it must be challengeable, it must be deletable, it must be overseen, and it must never become a silent tracking collar. The moment it turns into a behaviour monitor, a protest tracker, a welfare gatekeeper, a movement recorder, a permission system for daily life, that's when it collides head first with human rights. But the real truth is this: digital ID isn't dangerous because it exists. Digital ID is dangerous because once it exists, it never shrinks. It only ever grows. What begins as just for safety becomes just for convenience, and then just for compliance. And finally, just obey the system. Do as you are told. We are in control. George Orwell is now spinning in his grave. And history shows us something brutal. Power never deletes tools of control. It only upgrades them. So remember this. You are not a password. You are not a QR code. You are not a data point. You are not a permission slip. You are a human being, not a human doing. And any system that forgets that eventually treats you like you're not one. So let's just take a breather. I'm going to ask another question. But I want to reiterate this magic card, because that's what they're selling it as. Convenience. It's magic. So, question 3. Let's look at a hypothetical situation. If your digital ID failed tomorrow, say we've all got it because we've got no choice. We have, but I'm just using this hypothetically. If your digital ID failed tomorrow, should your access to money, healthcare, or travel vanish instantly? 1 yes, 2 no, 3 for I don't know. If your digital ID failed tomorrow, should your access to money, healthcare, or travel vanish instantly? Matthew Whelan says, what you have said makes me feel a bit better. Carl Pellerin, you are the resistance, brothers and sisters. Never forget that. Right on, Carl. Reg D, Sir Andrew James and Nikki Watson and Geordie Explore. Gary Shabot. Yes, Gary, saw your comment earlier today about Malta. I'll be in touch. Robert Norman and Gene Psychic too. That'd be crazy. So everybody's kind of in the same place. No, that shouldn't be. We've still got more questions, but I want to explain this simply. So I've given you all the complex stuff at the beginning. And thank you for staying, by the way, because this is not easy. And I know sometimes we do deep dives on a Monday. And the reason I do this deep dive is because I want to arm you, metaphorically arm you against the invading hordes, the government, the deep state, however you want to term it. So I wanted to pause for a moment because this is not politics. This is not tech. This is not tomorrow. This that I'm about to talk about is what kind of humans we are allowed to be. I've told you about your physog and your fingerprints and your access and being discriminated against. This is what kind of humans we are allowed to be. It is 1984. It is what George Orwell wrote about. It is about the Chinese Communist Party telling Keir Starmer to do as he is told, because they've got shit on that man that you and your imagination cannot even begin to comprehend. I've told you since he got into power, what have they got on him that makes him do as he is told every single time? Compromat of some kind. Now, Sniffy's been in number 10 today. What did he do? Bring him a couple of bags as a freebie. Oh, hello. Kia, my friend, you like Coca-Cola? I bring you Coca-Cola. Where is it then? I fancy a drink. And there's Robert Reeves turning round and saying, oh, right, well, we're an emergency ATM. And, well, you know, there's so much corruption going on in Ukraine, we're going to give them another £2.6 billion. Well, hang on a second. Where did that come from? Oh, the taxpayers. So the taxpayers are the literal ATM, so they can pull out some money and give it to Sniffy, who's going to launder it in Ukraine. And I want to know, I want to know how much Robert Reeves, I want to know how much Kia had, and I want to know what every fucking politician in this country had in their bank accounts when they became government. Because in my world, that's how much they should leave by, except for their annual income as a politician that we, the taxpayers, pay. Not, well, Nancy Pelosi went in with hardly a shirt on her back, and now she's walking out with 200 million. So Reeves, the thief, needs to explain to the taxpayer where the £2.6 billion came from that she's just chucked and spunked at Sniffy. And it's for the war. What war? The negotiating peace. Quick, get 2.6 billion in there because, we need to launder that so we can get some before he leaves power. They think we're thick, man. We need to be asking for that back. Oi, midget, come here. What's that up your nose? I've seen some white stuff fall out your nose. Right, you fucker. Give us the 2.6 billion back. We've got some elderly that we'd like to give some winter fuel payments to, because that would cover that this winter. And yet Robert Reeves is giving it away to some foreign national. They're all Manchurian candidates. Manchurian candidate. Somebody who works on behalf of a foreign power. Whether it's WEF, whether it's the UN, whether it's China, it's definitely not Russia. Bloody Putin literally is bursting his incontinence pants every fucking day. And Sakia's standing there, all sniffy, mate. Got any more Coca-Cola? They're corrupt. All of them. But let me explain this in very simple terms. Imagine this. You're given the magic card. It's got everything about you on it. It's about how much money you receive, who you speak to, what you buy, and every rule you ever break. And they smile and say, don't worry. It's just to make life easier. We're just going to stop all the illegals coming into the country. We couldn't smash the gangs or stop the boats. No. Raise the colours. Have you seen those lads yet? Raise the colours. I've submitted a request for an interview today with them. They're across in France on the beach doing what the French police should be doing. But that magic card, it's like a magic wand. Gets you in anywhere until it doesn't. It's a digital ID. But here's the real question. Is it going to break your human rights? It's not automatically illegal, as I've said, but it becomes dangerous the second it starts watching you instead of serving you. I mean, look at computers. We were told back in the 80s and 90s, the personal computer. Well, the personal computer's going to come in and, it's just going to make life so much easier. (2008). There's this new thing from Apple called the iPhone. It's going to make life easier. And all that happened from the 90s and then in 2008, it just made life quicker. It made it more complex. It was convenient. And then there's the British the British government. The British government telling Tim Cook, we need to be in by the back door. I've told you a million times before, this Labour government, all they're good for is going in via the back door. And Tim Cook's gone, are we in shape, man? So this is where the European Convention on Human Rights steps into the room like a quiet parent. I've told you about your rights to a private life. I've told you your second right, no discrimination. I've told you your third right, speech and protest. And I've told you their greatest lie. It's voluntary. But the European Convention for Human Rights doesn't ban digital ID. So as I've said to you before, what begins as safety becomes convenience, becomes compliance. becomes control. And power never deletes tools of control. It only upgrades them. Let's have another question. Question 4. Now, this is a real honest question. 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. Do you believe privacy is a human right? Even if you've done nothing wrong? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. Do you believe privacy is a human right, even if you've done nothing wrong? Garen Davis, I see you. Carl Warby, Catwoman Jones, Ulysses of Eriu, Lewis, Gene Psychic, Des Ashton. Everybody is saying yes. So Andrew James and Mike and BD Cool, especially if you've done nothing wrong, according to BD Cool, we all agree, except Rich. Tom Harneys, you would like to think so. And Amalia Grassi, especially if you've done nothing wrong. Still got a couple of more questions to go, but I want to now tell you about what happened at Westminster Hall today, because I'm not sure whether the mainstream media will be reporting it tomorrow. Will they be reporting Sniffy at number 10? It's always a bit iffy, the timing of everything. If they want to cover things up, like whatever happened to Rachel Reeves's budget? Oh, it's not in the news cycle anymore. Whatever happened to Donald Trump suing the BBC? Oh, it's not in the news cycle. What about that dodgy edit that the BBC did that the chairman, the Director General and head of news had to resign for? Oh, it's not in the news cycle. It's forgotten about. So this afternoon at 4:30, the Westminster Hall debate put nearly 3 million people's objections loudly on the record. But it's not changed government policy. And I'm sure you're emotionally reacting to this. And as I've explained to you over the last few months, that what they're wanting is for you to emotionally respond, because then they can control you. Whether it's fear, whether it's anger, whether it's rage, whether it's moral indignation, they are controlling you via that. So if you hear me say, but it has not changed government policy, I don't want you to feel deflated, because that's actually a positive. Let me explain. Ministers are still planning to roll out digital ID in this parliament. Oh, another feeling of defeat. Don't. Bear with me. There's going to be a consultation period and safeguards as the fig leaf. But here's what I can say confidently about outcomes out of this debate as of this evening. So what today's debate actually was, the debate was on e-petition 730194. Do not introduce digital ID cards. I think it's the 4th most populated petition in the history of petitions on the government's website. The petition had 2.96 million signatures, one of the biggest ever, second only to call a general election. It was led by a Conservative MP, Robbie Moore, on behalf of the Petitions Committee, with a Cabinet Office Minister, Josh Simons, responding for the government. Now, this is an important nuance that the press probably won't give you tomorrow. Westminster Hall debates on petitions, they're non-binding. They're just hot air. And there's no vote at the end to scrap or approve a policy. The formal outcome is simply that MPs air arguments and a minister gives the government line, and it's recorded in Hansard. the political mood in the room from some of the live reporting that I was watching, the tone in the room, the scheme was heavily attacked. The Guardian's live politics blog says, and Conservative MPs heavily criticised the proposed £1.8 billion digital ID scheme. Who's making the money? Follow the money. The fucking Blair family. You couldn't make this up. He's been out of power for 18 years. £1.8 billion digital ID scheme. No, that bloody wonder the Chinese wanted to run it. And it's highlighted almost 3 million signatures against it. The media framing, which is probably the narrative they're going to promulgate tomorrow in the newspapers, like GB News, described Starmer's digital ID plan as being torn apart by MPs during the debate, emphasising the mass surveillance concerns and size of the petition. There's also cross-party unease. The coverage that I've seen said that not only Conservative MPs, but some Labour MPs, such as Rachel Maskell and Melanie On, also raised concerns, particularly around civil liberties and digital exclusion, and all the stuff that I've explained along with the European Convention for Human Rights. Was there any protesting? Oh yes, there was a sister. At least one report mentions a protester interrupting the debate and being removed. A sign that the issue is now highly charged. She stood up and said, "We don't accept this." And the chair went, "Okay, get her out, get her out. Oh God, those bloody unwashed, those bloody humans. Oh, no, they smell. Get them out." So politically, the headline outcome for tomorrow is the government's digital ID, their plan now officially faces mass public opposition plus visible cross-party unease on the parliamentary record. But what line is the government holding? The substantive outcome comes from two things. One, the government's formal written response to the petition in October, which they have not backed away from. Johnny Big Bollocks. There's only 650 of them. 65 million of us. And in recent ministerial statements in the Commons about digital ID before today's debate, obviously. So from those and today's coverage, the government position is this. They will introduce a national digital ID within this Parliament. It will be a digital identity, not a physical card, available free. It's not free. It's costing me and you, the taxpayers, £1.8 billion. So forget the word free. It's not. The taxpayers are paying for it. And the Blair family are taking it out of our arse. Hello, Miranda. So it's going to be available free to UK citizens and legal residents over a certain age. So long as they've been here long enough, the economic migrants are going to get a free digital identity. I bet they are. They'll be back to Afghanistan quicker than you can say, "Oh, mate, what was that?" It is not compulsory to hold one. Well, in general, but it will be mandatory for some applications, specifically the right to work checks for all employers by the end of this Parliament, 2029. No, they're not going to last that long. They'll be out by 2027 at the latest. We'll have a new Prime Minister easily by May. They're not going to work. Well, I know that they've put some of the elections back. They want Ginger Growler back in, man. He's being told. Starmer's being told. You can stay until May, do whatever you want, stay until May, and then, now, I'm making that up because I've not been told by anybody, none of my sources. But if they're bringing Ginger Growler back into the cabinet after 40 G's worth of not paying taxes, people are just going to go, "She's bloody corrupt, that woman." She's got talents, though. The stated aims are these, very simply, tackling illegal working and criminal gangs. Economic migrants, anyone? Smash the gangs! You're going to bend them over yourself, okay? streamlining access to government services. Oh, the tax records. Oh, I say. Benefits. Oh, I say. Yeah, you better have a card, otherwise you're not getting in. Your name's not on the door. And they're saying they want to reduce fraud and paperwork. Try telling that to the local politicians, the local councillors and the local councils where reform's gone in and gone, bugger me, how much are you spending for that? Well, that's just fraudulent. So why aren't we prosecuting all of these local councils for fraud? I mean, the government is stressing that it won't be a criminal offence not to hold a digital ID. Good, you can Foxtrot Oscar then. Police won't be able to demand it in a stop and search. I'll take my passport with me all the time. But remember the time where we could walk around on the streets and we didn't need a driver's licence for proof. We didn't need a passport for proof. We could just say, what's your name? Where do you live? There, we're there. And I'll guarantee you what they're going to say is that the data will be stored in secure cloud environments in the United Kingdom with strong cybersecurity and privacy protections. And then day 2 of it going live, the Russians will have hacked in and start laughing at us. Because you know then that it might cost us 1.8 billion, but it'll then cost us so much more. So they won't stress test it. They'll just have it fall over. And like the NHS, when we've spent billions on their infrastructure, they'll just go, we'll just spend more. So there's no sign so far of any U-turn, any pause, or any promise to abandon the scheme as a result of today's debate. The offer on the table is still, we're going ahead, but we'll consult on the details and build in safeguards. So what has changed after today? Real world outcomes. Even without a vote, a Westminster Hall debate like this has real effects. Massive public opposition is now impossible to dismiss. The petition is sitting at just under 3 million signatures, openly branded as opposing mass surveillance and digital control. And Civil Liberties Group, Big Brother Watch et al., coordinated a joint briefing to MPs arguing that mandatory digital ID would create a checkpoint society and seriously threaten privacy and equality. So the outcome: ministers can no longer pretend that this is a niche or fringe concern. They are now formally on notice that a very large chunk of the electorate sees digital ID as a civil liberties red line. And the government's digital ID blueprint is now nailed to the wall because they've put their model into an official petition response and discussed it in Parliament. We now have clear, citable details. It will be national and linked to right-to-work checks. It will be mandatory for certain interactions with the state, even if not criminal to refuse. It is explicitly framed as a tool of immigration enforcement and labour market control. So the outcome for you now have hard text, petition response and ministerial answers that you can quote back at them when they try to downplay it as just convenience. That's all you have to do. You now have hard text. You now need to write to your MP. It's a consultation. You have to show your disapproval to your local MP. And the best thing that's happened today? Internal Labour tensions are now visible. Senior Labour figures have previously sold digital ID as an enormous opportunity to modernise services and tackle illegal work. I mean, it sticks in the throat where you've got MPs talking on using the word work. They've never worked a day in their bloody life. And Labour backbenchers are raising concerns in a petitions debate is a public sign that not all of the parliamentary party is comfortable with how far this could go. So there's now a story to tell about a Labour government ploughing ahead while some of its own MPs plus millions of citizens are warning about an authoritarian turn. So the next real decision point isn't today's debate. It's a consultation text and the eventual bill. That's where you'll see whether they try to limit the scope, decentralize data, and build genuine opt-outs. Or they'll double down on a centralized de facto mandatory system. So today, my take. Today, parliamentary officials and officially heard from nearly 3 million people who said no to digital ID. And the government's response was, well, we're doing it anyway, but we'll make it sound friendly. This was not a vote to stop digital ID. It was a warning shot that the government is choosing to ignore. Silly them. We now know the plan: a national digital ID, mandatory for work checks, and a digital gate between you and basic services, the NHS. Sold as convenience and modernisation. I'm going to ask you another question, I think. We've got 6 of them. I want to ask 5. I made tons of notes today. I must be mad. So I'll ask question 5. I'll ask question 5 and 6 in quick succession. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts, kind of an overarching thought. So question 5. Would you still support digital ID if attending protests was automatically logged? Would you accept and support digital ID if you were attending a protest and you were automatically logged as being there? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. David Graham, Nikki Watson, Andrew James, Matt Whedon, Kaz, Paul West, Comic Mania, Lewis, Ian McGee, everybody is saying no. Gary Shabot and Rich and Gribbo and Tom Harneys, no. BD Cool, Amalia, Lauren Taylor, Carl Warby, no. Don't read my lips, no. Soul Rebel and Philippa Fraser, Sandra Whittam and William Commons. So final question. And I'm kind of asking the obvious, but it's subtle and nuanced. Is voluntary still voluntary if you can't function without it? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for I don't know. Is voluntary still voluntary if you can't function without it? Everybody is saying no. Wow, thank you. Thank you to everyone. Everyone is saying no. And not that this is an echo chamber, not that this channel is an echo chamber by any stretch of the imagination, but it is for people who are awake and aware and just can see. It's common sense. Vixtex, Oval Raw, William Commons, Lewis, unanimous, 100% saying no. So let me give you my take. Tonight, nearly 3 million citizens have formally told the British state, or subjects if you wish, because it is a sceptred isle, no digital ID. And tonight, the British state has formally replied. We're doing it anyway. No vote, no pause, no referendum, no democratic reset, just continuation. The government now admits on the public record digital ID will be introduced in this parliament. It will not be optional for work. It will be tied to access, and it will be built first and then debated later. That's not consultation, that is notification. The objections are now documented: privacy, surveillance, exclusion, security, mission creep. And still, the machine advances. So let the record show this clearly. The people objected. Parliament heard. And power proceeds regardless. This is not about technology anymore. This is about whether consent still matters. They won't ask for your chains. They'll ask for your consent. And they'll update the cage while you sleep. Let me quickly rattle through some of the... Right, we've done those. Thank you very much for everyone that's voted. Thank you to everyone that's made their opinion known this evening. As I say, this is kind of part of last night's live and tonight's live. It's really, really important that not necessarily that we go and, do Guy Fawkes, but it's that we show our upsettedness, our unhappiness at what they're doing. Because they're snake oil sellers. They don't care about us. They don't care whether we live, breathe or die. Look at the jibber jabber. And on the day that Sniffy turns up at number 10 in his fatigues, why is he turning up in bloody fatigues? The war's over. Putin's signing for peace. Trump's signing for peace. But I've told you, for the last 2 years, Zelensky doesn't want peace because he's put so many young men through the mincer, through the grinder. Oops. See what I did there? Those who know. So Zelensky's put them through the grinder. And obviously he's popped over to go, hello, Kia, my friend. How did the Fun Boy 3 go? It's a lovely bottle of Coca-Cola. Want to come on my train? Timing is everything. To think we're stupid, but we can see right through them. So I'm going to decode. So on the front page of The Sun today. No, that's... hang on. What have I done with it now? Probably chucked it out. Front page of The Sun. Harry, ginger sphericals? Oh, we're going to have a review. A review of what? Well, a review. And they've got a picture of Ginger Spherical smiling. Probably because he's got away from the wife. So they're talking about a month's time. They're going to have a review. And he's seemingly happy. But you know what's going to come back. They're not going to go against the king or the future king. He's just going to be told, oi, ginger bollocks, how do we end shite? So the review's going to take about a month or so. Keeps Harry quiet over Christmas. He doesn't get to go to Balmoral. We don't know how ill the king is. And I said repeatedly, I wish him a long life and good health. But we don't know how long we have him on the throne for. Because King Billy, King William, when he becomes king, he's going to go, oi, Harold, Foxtrot Oscar, mate. He's going to be cast into the wilderness. But you know what this is about? If you want me to decode it very simply into a sentence or two. It's about Meghan and her mother. Internationally protected person. Because you know that, look, I'm not psychic by any stretch. If you want me to wear me turban and predict anything for 2026, it's Harry and Meghan are going to get a divorce. So she's absolutely, categorically, oi, ginger knackers, get over there, get it sorted. I want me IPP, man. Because even if they divorce, which they will do in 2026, look, I'm putting me colours to the flag post. She keeps it for life. And do you know what that means as an IPP? You can fly into any country, anywhere in the world, and not be searched. So, and I'm not suggesting they would do this, but an IPP can carry anything in their bag, like Sniffy today. He went to number 10. What was he carrying in his bag? He's an IPP. He's never going to get searched. He can walk in and out of countries carrying anything. That's why Trump kicked off when he went to the White House. Sniffy was off his tits. Trump don't like it. Don't like it. Doesn't drink, doesn't do recreational gear. Doesn't like it at all because of what happened to his brother. But internationally protected person keeps it for life. And that also goes for the nanny. So if mummy's looking after the kids, mummy can put anything in her bag. I mean, according to Tom Bower's book, she likes a bit of an old toke on the old wacky backy. As does Meghan. She gave it out for free at her bloody wedding. And Harry loves it. He's admitted it. That's why they're after. Look, if he comes over here and he's on royal duty, he gets armed protection. No questions. But if she, the mother, and the kids come across, the kids are never going to come back to this country. And when Billy gets into the big chair, he's just going to go, right, I'll take your titles off you. You're no longer a royal. You see our Uncle Andrew. See what we did to him. Yeah, you're getting exactly the same treatment. And those kids won't even be in the line of succession. And I'll tell you another thing. All these rumours that have circulated for years, I mean, I will never, ever, ever use the name that they gave to that girl, because that was our great Queen Elizabeth II's nickname, from a loving nickname from her family. Fucking hell. But I'll tell you this. For every single royal birth, there is, and a royal birth that goes into the line of succession, there is a witness in the birthing room to make sure that that baby came out of where they said it was coming out of. Fact. It's happened for hundreds of years. You can't trust anybody to go, oh, I've knocked the kid out. Oh, yeah, they're the second in line to the throne. Really? Oh, yeah, I borrowed it off somebody down the village, in the valley. The reason why there is a royal witness is to prove that that baby is who they say that baby is. Were there any royal witnesses for those two children? I mean, technically, Archie is English. But the American? She's not even born over here. How can she be in the line of succession? So all of that will be cleaned up and cleared up once Billy gets on the throne. And IPP, never happening in a month of Sundays. There's a review. Oh, lovely, lovely. Do you know who it's costing? The taxpayer. Because he don't pay a fucking penny, that boy, because it's his dad's court, his dad's review. Sorry, the King's. We don't know who the dad is. Who's your daddy now? I was going to talk to you about, where are we? I don't know whether you're aware of what 3 words. And Kate Winslet, young women have no idea of what beauty is. I was going to debate that. Monica Bellucci for me. But I want to round off my... No, Vix Tex, I know it's not the child's fault, but we don't even know whether they're from central casting. I get that we've never seen their faces. I mean, they could be ugly. I mean, can you imagine? Ginger Sphericals. What did they do? Come out bald. Has he got a merkin on his head, by the way? Have you seen him lately? It's kind of like one colour here and then it's slightly lighter. I reckon he's got a merkin. I reckon he's bald as a coot under there. He's got a merkin. So thank you for staying with this evening. I believe it's really important. I hope that you got understanding that it's not, the route and direction of travel is not easy for the government. The European Convention for Human Rights is going to be a bit of a sticking point in certain areas, but that's why they might try and get rid of it. They might give you an excuse. Oh, will benefit and we'll stop all the migrants and it'll be beneficial and convenient. It's going to take years. But I believe that they won't bring digital ID in. They'll have it there. They don't care. Blairs, they make their billions. They've got to set it up, then they're going to run it. It's going to cost us billions and billions and billions, and nobody cares. Because the country's awash with money, yours, your taxes. I mean, you know this is the way the government operates. They're not going to come for you with chains. They're going to come with convenience. They're not going to bark orders. They're not going to shout orders. They're just going to send you updates via text or email. They're not going to demand obedience. They're going to require verification. And they're going to require that you need to log in. And one day soon, not too far away, a child will ask, did people really used to move without permission? And we, you and I, will answer, well, yes, we traded it for speed. Not, uppers and downers. Because the most powerful prison is not built with walls. It is built with logins, with permissions, with approvals, with scans, with green ticks. The other day, LinkedIn sent me an email saying, verify your account, it's free. So I went to verify my account, thinking it's free. And then they said, oh no, you've got to have this approver or whatever it is. And I thought, you can have away and shite. I now can't even log into my LinkedIn account. That's another social media I won't use. Mission creep, overreach. When your freedom is conditional, it's no longer freedom. It's merely good behavior. So, sleep well. Your government loves you. And keep your soul offline. My name's Adrian Allen. Thank you for your likes. Certainly thank you for all of your voting this evening. It's good to see that we are the resistance. So thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. We've got another live on Wednesday. Again, it's 7:30, 7:15 parish notes. 7:30. We'll make it slightly lighter. We'll have a look at what's going on the day, and we'll bring a more balanced and nuanced. We'll have a bit of a chuckle and a giggle because it's only 2 weeks away from Christmas. I'm probably not going to. This is my last deep dive before Christmas, because I want us to enjoy what we do and how we go up to Christmas and New Year. Des Ashton, obey, consume, comply. Ta-ta for now. Cheers, Des. So wherever you go, whatever you do, be well, stay safe, keep the Battenberg handy, and the altar wine if you can. It's free. And remember, that was Live 269, Theatre of the Mind. It's not a show, it's a mission. And the mission is truth. See you Wednesday night. Ghost Story coming at midnight again tonight, every night until the 24th. And other stuff coming over the next few days. See you Wednesday, 7:30.